So today we're harvesting Petit Verdot, and we've just brought that in from the vineyard, and we are now have this on the sorting table. What we've done is we've put this on our cluster sorting table, and from the cluster sorting table we're looking through the clusters to see if there's any damage or any leaves or any major matter that we need to remove from the clusters. And then from the cluster sorting table, the clusters will drop down into our elevator, and from the elevator they're elevated up into the destemmer, and from the destemmer, our destemmer then shakes the berries off of the cluster, and the rachis drops out the other side, and our berries drop down onto the sorting table where our students are looking through the berries to look for jacks, which are broken parts of the rachis or the stem. And so we're looking through those, and we're really happy with the fruit this year in 2021. This is a wonderful season for reds and for whites. This has been really interesting because we've had really great ripening weather. And so we're really trying to do a lot of extraction in our red winemaking process. The extraction is coming from enzymes that we add to the fruit. It is from a little bit warmer fermentation temperatures this year, and we're definitely doing more vigorous pump overs and punch downs. All right, welcome to the Surrey Cellars Winery. This is where the students and I will work together to produce our Surrey Cellars wine. We've got 3 different lines of wines that we produce. We've got our Blue Ridge line, we've got our Surrey Cellars line, and we have our Surrey Reserve line. And under each one of these different lines, we do produce different types of wine. Under the Surrey Cellars Blue Ridge line, we are producing wines that are semi-dry, so they have a little bit of residual sugar. We do a white and a red. And then on the Surrey Cellars line, we do varietal wines, so we have things like Merlot and Chardonnay. And under the Surrey Reserve line, only the wines that are produced in the years that really show great promise do we put those wines under the Surrey Reserve line. We also do have a specialty line where we do make some others. We do make some sparkling wines that have done very well at competitions regionally and nationally. We do have a new line of wines called Surrey Labs. Surrey Labs is a line that we worked on together with the students to produce wines that are experimental in nature. And these experimental wines are things like pet nats and natural wines, things that are pretty trendy right now. So we do work together to produce these wines in this winery. We do have a capacity of about 2,500 gallons. That's just in our main tank area. We do have the extended capacity to produce about 1,000 cases a year based off of the vineyard that we have and the production that we can go through. So today we're in here in the winery taking a look at some of our red fermentations. So we were out on the crush pad taking a look at how we process our red grapes through a 2-level sorting process, cluster sorting and a berry sorting process. And now we've come into the winery and we are actually going to go through the process of cap maintenance, which is what I'm going to be doing right now on some of our red wines that we just processed from last week. So one of the things that's important about cap maintenance is making sure that we get really good homogenization throughout the entire fermenter. In these fermentations, I've actually got the temperature of the barrel room down to about 65 degrees. This is to account for some of the heat that's going to come off of the fermentation. And one of the things that we want to do during cap maintenance is make sure that we disperse that heat 2 to 3 times a day. So this is what we're doing in here. We're moving the cap around, that cap that's formed with carbon dioxide, of course, pushing those berries all the way up to the top of the fermenter. So we've gone through the process here and we're almost done with cap maintenance on this particular fermenter. This is Merlot. Merlot here has actually also been co-inoculated. That's one thing that we've done with our Merlot for a while now. is going through the process of co-inoculation. There's two types of inoculation for malolactic conversion. There's a sequential, which would occur after the fermentation had been completed, the primary fermentation. We go into malolactic conversion after our primary fermentation, or we can actually do a sequential, or we can do a at the same time type of fermentation conversion with our malolactic. So this works really well on Merlot. It actually preserves a lot of the fruity characteristics that are really common in Merlot. So I'm really excited about the results on this. Okay, so over here we have our Tanata. Tanata is a variety that we're really excited about at Surrey Cellars, and the reason that we are excited about it is because it gets so ripe and it retains its acid. It's one of those varieties that actually we do not have to add any acid on. And adding acid in North Carolina to your red fermentations, to your white fermentations, but especially to your red fermentations is going to be really essential. And for a variety like this one to retain its acid during the ripening process before you harvest it, it's really, really wonderful for us in the cellar. So it might not be the easiest in the vineyard, but it is definitely one of the easier grapes in the cellar. One of the approaches that we take with our Tanata is that we really want to maintain a high level of extraction on this particular variety. So punching this down and maintaining the cap about 3 times a day is going to be essential. We also take a little bit further step with the extraction of this particular variety, and what we do is we will actually destem this and crush it. Not all of our fermentations that we work on where red fermentations are crushed. And the reason being is because a lot of our reds, when they do come in, they're not exactly ripe. And unfortunately, when you have a fermentation or you have a grape variety that is not exactly ripe when it comes in from the field, it's not always advisable to make the same type of wine from that particular variety as you would have from a variety that maybe was ripe. So one of the things that we do in this variety, because it does get so ripe out in the field, is we do crush it after we destem it. So it actually gets really, really mushy, gets really mixed up, and we do a really great job with this because of the extraction methodology. So before us we have Cabernet Franc. I was just talking about how in North Carolina it's so important to make sure that we add acid to our red fermentations. And the reason being is because we do get very high pHs coming in from the vineyard. Cabernet Franc is one of those varieties that does come in with a higher pH. And as it comes in with that high pH, it's something that we do have to manage. And so one of the things that I've been testing over the last couple of years is a new yeast strain. It's a wild strain that comes from Scott Laboratories, and it's called Latica. And Latica, what it does is it actually forms lactic acid in order to maintain, if not lower, the pH of the fermentation during the actual fermentation process. One of the things that we do after the fermentation process is over for Latica, which is usually about 36 to 48 hours, is we will actually use a stronger yeast strain to then inoculate the fermentation with. And so we just finished fermenting with Latica on this particular wine. And we just pitched our yeast, and so now we're starting to get some more vigorous cap formation, and we are starting to see a more rapid Brix depletion. So we're really excited, and we've been doing this for the last couple of years. One of the things that we do get on this is a little bit of a lactic-y type note in terms of the sensory evaluation of the wine. So we do get some lactic influences, not necessarily cheesy, but more along the lines of a gamey influence, which is interesting for Cabernet Franc. So that is one thing that we are working on with this particular variety. All right, so one of the things that we are doing out here on the crush pad in order to get ready for our red wines that will get pressed next week is maintaining barrels. One of the things that we do find in with barrel maintenance is that they can be quite difficult to take care of. So one thing that we have to do is maintain them. And as we maintain them, there are a few things that we have to do. We have to go through the process of cleaning them with hot water. As we clean them with hot water, we get out any sort of the soils that may have accumulated up in the barrel from previous fillings. And then we also use a sanitizer called ozone. And ozone works really well. It's a very strong oxidizer and gets rid of any sort of microbiological material that may be left over. So those are two things that we do in order to maintain the barrels. Once we know that these used barrels are going to have been cleaned, we can go ahead and take a sniff test. And so one of the things that we'll do is we'll go inside the barrel and smell. Make sure that the barrel smells like wood and wine. If it is a used barrel, if it is a new barrel, then hopefully it just smells like wood. If it's smelling like something else, maybe something sour, that might lead us to believe that we do have an infection in the barrel or some sort of problem. We wouldn't want to use that barrel for any sort of red wine that was coming in from this vintage. So we're maintaining our barrels out here on the crush pad, we're washing our barrels, we're sanitizing our barrels, and we're sniffing our barrels to maintain their integrity. This program here at Surrey Community College started in 1999 with continuing education classes, and in 2001, curriculum classes were added to the program. We have a degree program. This degree program encompasses what we call Grape to Glass. And what does that mean? Grape to Glass means that the first day that the students are out in the vineyard of their grape harvest class or their introduction to viticulture class, and then as they move forward and they take more classes, they work in the winery, and then finally in their second year of the program, they are working out in festivals and trying to figure out how to sell wines. So from grape to glass.